In a society where we are quick to react but slow to connect, the wisdom of nurturing relationships might just be the key to a more harmonious life. Why wait for conflict to arise, though? Why not build a foundation of understanding, trust, and love from the start? We are going to talk a little bit about that today.
Welcome to the Family, Health, and Hustle podcast, where sharing our stories, common experiences, and best practices about balancing family, practicing good health, and reaching your goals can help you feel supported, bring clarity, and guide you to the life you want. So if you're ready to challenge yourself, your health, and the hustle around you, then consider this your community. Now, let's welcome your host, Anthony Hernandez.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I appreciate you joining us this week. Today we have a very special guest and conversation I've been looking forward to. As most of you know, I have been married to my beautiful wife for just over 10 years. We dated for about a year and then got engaged for like 6 months. I was trying to get married in like a month because I was like, let's just do this thing. But we waited. It was actually probably closer to like 4 to 5 months from the time that we were engaged to the time that we got married. Anyway, so been married about 10 years. Couple years ago, my wife was telling me about a friend of ours that was going through some marriage counseling, and our first, of course, reaction was like, "Oh, I didn't know things were bad," and they weren't bad, actually. We found out that this couple, they like to do that every year. They go to like a little retreat or a getaway, and they do that as kind of preventative. And so my wife, Miranda, and I decided to meet with a counselor because, of course, after several years there was nothing super serious, but there was a few things that, probably were good to get out as well. We had stopped dating each other as far as like, we used to go to the movies all the time together, and then we had our son at the end of 2017. And obviously, as with having kids, things start to get a little bit distracting. You're taking care of your little one. You're spending time with them. Now you have to have a babysitter if you go out. So, the times that we got to spend together were far and few between because we just wouldn't think about it. And then, maybe when a parent was in town or something, we would ask them to watch them, and we would go see a movie or whatever. But we rarely ever got a babysitter just to watch them, just so we could go out. Anyway, so I think there was a few things there that we started feeling disconnected, and we decided to go meet with a counselor. Just again, not so much because we thought there was a big problem, but we thought, why don't we nip this in the butt now and not have to worry about this in the future? And it was very interesting to go through that experience and to kind of dive into some of the ways we were feeling that maybe we weren't expressing to each other. And life is a continual process of failing and succeeding. So we haven't done that for a little while, but I really saw the benefit in doing it. And when I met our next guest, that's the first thing that came to my mind, because she is a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I was like, oh, this is really good, good for people to know, because one, we've had a few guests on our show that have gone through a divorce. We've all know people who are going through divorce, or maybe you have yourself, or maybe your marriage is on the rocks. All these different scenarios, or like I said, maybe it's just good to get started and try to address some of these things before it becomes a problem. So I met her. I said, oh, this is great. I think our audience would really love it. Today, I'm going to speak with Sonnet Hintze. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is passionate about helping couples before, keyword there, before major problems arise. And that is why she has designed a premarital and marital weekend education class. So she's been doing this for a while. She's created a program to help people really to smooth these things out before they become problems, which of course I think is the best way to do it. It's better to handle or address something that could be a problem at the beginning before it becomes a problem than when emotions are high and things are really intense and, whatever is a really big issue. In relationships, whether it's with our spouse, our friends, our parents, members of our family, it's good to have these kinds of conversations and understand how to communicate with each other, because I think that really is what it comes down to, is communication. We just don't communicate with each other enough. So a small note to the listener, you may not notice it as much, but I think our viewers on YouTube might. We were having a little bit of a connection issue. So if it gets a little pixelated or anything, I apologize. We're going to do our best to try to smooth that over. And so anyway, without further ado, Sonnet Hintze, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Not many people know, but a couple years ago, my wife and I decided to proactively go and meet with a counselor, or a coach rather. And we had been hearing from different friend groups of the benefit of going and just kind of going through some of these processes and learning and getting to know each other better and really nurturing that relationship. And so when I met you a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, this is great, because most people don't.
Yeah.
They don't seek any kind of coaching or accountability or guidance with their relationships until it's too late, right? So that being said, I read your intro here a second ago, and, to the audience, Sonnet is someone that is passionate about helping people. And today I want to dive into her story and kind of understand what makes her want to help people. what brings that passion and that desire, and what joy you experience from that and so forth, that's caused you to choose that line of work. So anyway, that being said, tell us a little bit about what you do. I touched on it a little bit. People know that you like helping people. What is it that you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are, some of your experiences, a little bit about you.
Yeah, definitely. And then first off, I want to say I appreciate you sharing that about you and your wife, because you're right, people do wait. Typically, people wait until things have been really bad for about 6 years is the average that people wait before getting help. So I love that you guys were like, hey, let's just be proactive before, issues come up. And in the training that I do, if you do prevention, you're actually 3 times more likely, more effective for prevention versus when, you're already experiencing problems. And so I love that, because prevention here is not always talked about. So I love that you're willing to share that and how it helped you. So yeah, like you said, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been licensed since about 2015. Well, I got my master's in 2013, but it takes a couple years of working under someone who's licensed in order to become a licensed therapist. And I work at Hopeful Beginnings. And so I do telehealth mostly with their company. And then I'm also on their crisis line 4 days per week. And what you talked about with the prevention, my business that I'm also doing is called Building Healthy Foundations for Couples. And it's for that purpose. So it's for premarital education weekends. Eventually I'm going to be doing marriage weekends, kind of the same thing, to kind of keep you on course. And then with the wellness coaching, so the physical wellness coaching, you can do that individually or you can do it as a couple, which is also awesome to work on your goals, your physical goals together. And then we also work on, okay, how can we translate that to your other goals other than your physical goals. And I don't know if you knew this, but in Utah, when you complete either 6 hours of premarital education or 3 hours of couples therapy, you actually get $20 off your license, your marriage license, when you apply online. So just a little discount.
Oh, awesome.
They're just trying to really reinforce that. But the other thing is more the benefits. Like you said, you're learning the tools that can help you when you do run into problems.
That's awesome. And I definitely want to dive in there. I got some funny experiences that I'm sure my wife, when she listens to this, she'll probably laugh and be like, But we'll get to that
You'll
point.
have another session later.
Yeah, it's been a little while. We're probably due for one. No. Anyway, so what led you down this? Obviously, a master's degree. I mean, this has been on your mind for some time. It's not something you can go on just a weekend and get certified to do, right? So kind of tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of your experiences growing up, or whether that be younger or in your teenage years or in your early adult life. And, what has caused you to dedicate your life to this, which I think is a noble cause, first of all. But tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think if you talk about as far as being younger, as far as being a therapist, I think just in in general, my nature as a child was more, or being the peacemaker, right? Having a hard time with contention and things like that. So it wasn't always to be a therapist, but I knew that I wanted to do something where I was helping other people, providing support and helping them, with their goals and helping them improve their life. So that's kind of where therapy started. And then kind of the same thing for premarital. Obviously, it's to help people, but I went through a divorce on my own. That's part of the reason that I decided it's so important to do some of that prevention. And then also working with couples, like you talked about being at the breaking point, right? So seeing couples at their breaking point, and it really helped me become passionate about prevention. I'm like, I want to help couples not get to that point. Let's see if we can help them not have to go down those roads, because I've been there and it's difficult, and I want to help other people, not have to experience that. Now, with the wellness coaching, one of my other life experiences that led to that, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 40 and a half. No family history, nothing coming up. I actually found out in my mammogram, and I even put off my mammogram a little bit, right? So making sure, do your testing and all of that is really important when we talk about your wellness. But when I was going through that, like even going through chemo, I had already put on some weight before I was even diagnosed, right? So I was working on that, trying to lose that weight. And then when I would go in for my cancer treatments, the doctor would be really excited. He's like, "You're not losing any weight. That's awesome." And I'd be like, "Well, I kind of want to lose weight. If I'm going
Yeah.
through chemo, at least get, one benefit." But joking aside, I am super grateful for the doctors helping me get through that. Their goal was that I wouldn't throw up the entire time, and I didn't. So I am really super, super grateful. But then after that, they say it takes your body about a year to recover. But in that time, I was still trying to be physically active and do things, right? But I still ended up putting on even more weight. So that's kind of what led me to trying to find my own wellness and my own weight loss. So I did find support for that. And so far I've been able to lose 25 pounds, and then I'm still
Wow.
continuing on that because I feel good. And so it's like, okay, let's continue on that path.
That's awesome. Well, and I think most people don't realize that your physical health, I mean, it's a well-balanced ecosystem. Physical
Mm-hmm.
health, mental health, relationship health, professional health.
Yeah.
All these things are very well balanced, and I know that there are some coaches that I've come across that the very first thing they want you to do is work on your relationship and work on your physical health, because
Mm-hmm.
they said that those two things go hand in hand. And if you can't do
Yes.
those two basic things, everything else in life, you're not going to get the results that you want. I do, to the comment that you just said about not losing weight during chemotherapy. It's funny that
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that. Obviously, a very serious situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But my dad was diagnosed with cancer a couple years ago, and he's great now. He's recovering. He went through chemo, all that stuff, and he would joke during the process. He would say the same thing. He'd be like, "Of course, I'm not losing any weight. I'm losing all
Yeah.
my muscle." He would say, "I have the strength of a 5-year-old." He's like, "But I am not losing any fat." And he's like, "Come on, man. If I'm going to go through this process, at least let me cut down some fat."
I
So it was always a
know.
little joke in
Oh,
the
so
family.
true. Well, I'm so
But
glad he's okay. I say it's not surviving cancer, it's surviving chemo sometimes.
right, I mean that probably does. It wasn't easy on him, and I can't
Yeah.
imagine for anyone as you as well. So, how old
Hmm.
were you when you got diagnosed with? You said breast cancer, right?
Yeah, so about 40 and a half. So I had noticed something different right about the time that I should have gone in when I was 40, and I just kept putting it off, and I was like, I'd tell my husband, I think something's wrong. This feels different, and finally he just had to really be like, because sometimes I forget to do things right, or I just kind of plan to and I forget and just keep putting it off. And he was just like, really just blunt, like, well, go make an appointment then. And I literally walked down to my whiteboard, wrote that I'm making an appointment, and then that's when I was diagnosed. And I feel like this is actually important to mention. I had a plan to talk about this, but if there are other listeners, and they may benefit from this. Now, the problem is sometimes with women, if they have dense breast tissue, sometimes it's harder to pick it up. They found the one that I could tell was cancer, that I figured, I'm pretty sure this is. So they found that one. I even did the 3D mammogram. None other. They found the one. I had literally gone into the doctor just to do a lumpectomy. Let's take out this one. And luckily, I told the doctor, I just said, I'm having some pain here. And I kind of showed her and I said, I'm a little bit worried about it here. I don't know what's going on. And she just said, let's do an MRI just in case. The MRI came up with four
Wow.
additional ones that weren't there. Now, if I hadn't done the mammogram, I don't even know if I'd be here, right? Because we might have just treated the one and not even known there were other. Now, I know insurance is an issue, but that's just a thought. If you do have the dense breast tissue, maybe kind of promote with your insurance and let them know those concerns. If they don't do the MRI, or talk with your doctor if that is an option. So
Well, and I think I'm glad you shared that because I think it's also important to be open with your physician because I think a lot of people
mhm.
feel there's certain topics that we don't talk about in our everyday conversations,
Yeah,
and they're like,
yeah.
I don't want to say this to my doctor. Like, maybe he's of the opposite gender or whatever. Maybe he's
Yeah.
a attractive fella, whatever,
Mhm.
or gal. And so sometimes people hold that back, but I think it's so important to share that with them because one thing about the medical field is like unless I mean it's a lot of it's guessing. I'm not a physician
Yes.
by any means, but
Mhm.
I have friends that are in the medical field and a lot of it's just process of elimination. And so they will
Mhm.
look and maybe do like you said like a mammogram, they'll see one thing and say, "Oh, that's it. Cool. Boom.
Yeah.
We've
Mhm.
eliminated a few things. That's the thing." They might not be
Yes.
thinking maybe there's something deeper unless like you did share further, and it could be whatever about this or any
Mhm.
topic, sharing any kind of concern, even if it feels silly. If it's something that's concerning you, then obviously I'm sure the
Yeah.
doctor will take that serious. So I appreciate
For
you
sure.
mentioning that. Going back to, I want to go down all those topics about health, because again, I think physical health doesn't sometimes cancer might be luck of the draw. You might just get
Mhm.
something, right? And or another condition or another sickness or whatever. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. But I think a lot of our life and our daily routines and our habits can help keep us away from some of those things. Again, maybe not
Yes.
cancer, but maybe
Yeah.
arthritis or whatever these
Yeah.
other conditions. So I definitely want to go down that road. Well, let me ask you this: what did you want to be when you were younger? You said that it wasn't, hey, I'm going to be a coach and a counselor.
Yeah.
What is it that you wanted to do? Was it something still along those lines of caring for other people, or was it you wanted to be an astronaut?
Yeah. To be honest, I think, well, when I grew up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I think that's a great job, right? And so saying that really is a job, and I think I did want that
Hmm.
as a career. In Utah, I ended up getting married later. I think even not even Utah standards. I was almost 31 when I got married for the first time. So I had already been working and going to school, and then that's when I kind of decided later on. But with this career, I've been able to find out how I can manage both, right? So I can still be there for my son, my stepboys, and how I can kind of manage it and still kind of do the things that I enjoy as well.
Awesome. Let me ask you this. I don't want to obviously dive into your divorce because I know that's a very personal topic for you and as anyone that's had gone through that or is going through that. But let me ask you this. A lot of times people will push this narrative that you shouldn't get married young, that you should wait till your
Mm.
30s and you're more likely to have a better relationship or marriage if you're 31 or 32 or 35, whatever. So you have, I think, two segments of people. You have a lot of people that get married young, and then you have a lot of people, and even in maybe the type of media that we consume all the time,
Yeah.
their perception is get married later, live your life, get married later. Do you think that contributes to a healthy relationship, whether you're 21 or 31 or 41 when you get married?
Well, I think it can kind of depend on the individual. So you're asking if I feel like you should or shouldn't get married earlier or later, if that kind of changes things.
Well, not even if you should, but do you think there are factors the later you get married that would just naturally help with a better relationship? Or do you think it really doesn't matter? You're going to have issues no matter what age you get
Yeah.
married. I mean, I guess what's your opinion on that as far
Yeah,
as
well, I would say my opinion is sometimes it can make a difference, right? As far as when you're young, I think it's more the attitude, and that's why I'm trying to increase this prevention piece because I do think sometimes when you're younger, there is kind of that tendency like, oh, I'm in love, especially your first time, right? First time you've been in love, it's just euphoric and you just love that experience, right? And you just think, okay, this is it, everything's going to be great. So if you're going into it with that, you know, being younger, maybe believing that could impact that, right? Later on, when you're older, you may have a little bit difference. Okay, I know it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect right away. You might be able to think through that, or if you've had, past experiences knowing, okay, relationships can change. But I think you can get married. I think you can get married, at different ages. And I did a class for a couple, and they're 20 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
I love that they are willing to come and do the class. And
Yeah,
even
awesome.
what I've loved about it is the males have even enjoyed it. They like the communication, or they like the experiences, because I think we're just allowing, hey, it's okay to say, hey, there might be problems, or here's how you can, improve your relationship. So we do a lot as far as like prevention. So in my groups, we go over love languages, we go over some exercises so that they can make sure that they're using that. We go over, communication, and we go over budgeting, right? And so I think that can help prevent it too, especially if you're young and you don't go into kind of thinking about things. I guess I would be saying that prevention, I think, is the key. No matter what someone's age is, if they go into it saying, hey, I know this isn't going to be perfect, but I'm willing to work on it, I think that's where the attitude should be, no matter what age you are when you get married. And I think if you go into it with that, it's helpful.
And if you go into it probably with the idea of it's constant nurturing, right? It's
Yes,
constantly dating each other, right?
yes, and it's work. It can be work. You can't just trust the love to be there, right? You have to, yeah, like you said, you have to nurture it. Love is there, which is amazing, but if you don't nurture it right, it slowly starts to dissipate.
So when my wife and I met with a marriage counselor, again, it was kind of we were just hearing some friends that were like, "Hey, we go to a 3-day boot camp," and we were
Yeah,
like, "Oh, we didn't know there was issues." And they're like, "Oh no, there's not issues. We just like to
yeah,
do this to nurture the relationship." So we're like, "Oh, we'll try that." And so it was interesting because most of it was great, but then there would be a few topics where it was like, "Oh, I didn't know that was a problem." I
oh
didn't know.
yeah,
Oh, she doesn't like when I do that. I didn't know that. Or
yeah,
maybe she was doing something I didn't like and she didn't know that. And, truth comes out. And so there definitely were a couple of those appointments where we left going like, or where we were going into rather, where it was like, hey, remember we're talking about this topic today. It's going to push us out of the comfort zone, right?
yeah.
Do you find that happens a lot where people kind of get pushed out of their comfort zone? And do you also find that there are certain topics, this is a big one, I think. There's certain topics where it's like almost like stonewalling, I think would be the
Hmm.
appropriate term, right? Where
Yeah.
the couple's not coming to an agreement.
Hmm.
And especially in the love language book, the 5 love languages,
Yeah.
it mentions multiple experiences of clients that gentleman had where someone had to be the one to take the first step, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in relationships, people I've spoken to about their relationships, sometimes it seems like no one's willing to take the first step because they're both
Yes.
like, I'm right, he's wrong, or she's right and I'm wrong. And do you see that happen a lot? How do you get over or through some of those obstacles?
Yes, definitely. That can be hard if both people are in there. And this can happen, in any type of relationship, as well as a marriage counselor. I've also worked with like parents and children and things like that. And I kind of go through, there's like a cycle, right? One thing happens, right? And it's usually can be 10 different things, but then the same cycle happens. And once people realize, oh, wait, we're in the same cycle, even though it might be a different argument, the cycle might be the same, right? Someone might yell at the other person, and then the other person shuts down, and because that person shuts down, then the other person thinks they're angry, maybe they shut down, or it just kind of continues in a cycle. So when I'm working with, even if it's just one individual and I don't have the other person, I work with them saying, okay, how can you change your portion in that cycle, right? How can you change, something you do? Maybe you don't shut down in that, and maybe you communicate and you say, hey, I didn't appreciate how you said that, and then that other person maybe responds differently, and it changes the cycle. So if even if one person's willing to do it, that's kind of how I work with them. I work with the one person of changing wherever they're at on the cycle, and a lot of times that will help the other person change, even though they're not specifically working on it.
Yeah, and I that was something I always thought was interesting in that book is talk kind of the same what you're just saying is
Mm-hmm.
when one person works on whatever it is, it tends to change the other person. That's really the only way to change the
Mm-hmm.
other person, right? You can't force
Yeah.
someone. You can't
Yeah.
say, I mean, I guess you can say it, but I think, like you said, people shut down or they get defensive. The only way to really improve relationship is A, to first start working on what you can control.
Yes.
And then hopefully
Yeah.
that was the idea of the love language, right? My partner has a certain love language. I am going to do my best, even though it might not be my love language, to
Yes.
try to contribute to that. And then as their love tank starts getting full, then they start naturally contributing back, right? That would be the hope. I'm sure sometimes it doesn't always happen. I don't know. In your experience, are you seeing a lot of couples that, the ones that have the most difficulty, do they fall into that kind of where they're less likely to work on their what falls into their purview? Or I guess you probably see all kinds of crazy stuff, but tell us a little bit about that. What are some of maybe the
Yeah.
most difficult circumstances outside of infidelity and things like that, but difficult
Yeah.
circumstances that could have been nurtured before, that as it grows and as it's left by itself to stew, it becomes
Yeah.
an issue over the long run?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like you said with your experience of you and your wife going through that group, right? And having things come up. And at first you're like, oh, maybe I don't like this because now it feels like something's wrong. But like you said, if you're not addressing those things, then it just continues to get worse. Sometimes I like this example. So I just kind of use the example when you're not communicating, right? Like when you build a snowman, right? So you're kind of starting with just a snowball, you kind of pack it. You start with a little snowball, right? There's a situation that happens. It's just a little snowball, but maybe you don't say anything, but it really kind of bothered you. You don't say anything. Something else happens again, right? It's rolling it to make another level. You don't say anything until then it becomes really huge, right? And so you might do something that you deem as small, and your wife may be really upset. You're going, oh, it was just this little thing, like what's going on? And it could be because if it wasn't communicated, so I think it's a good thing, even if it comes out that, okay, this is a difficult thing, we need to be able to talk about it. But also one thing that I've added in my groups is also a couple individual exercises to work through your own stuff, to kind of work through your own stuff. So what I do is I give people an exercise where they can kind of recognize what's their trigger. So then they can see, okay, is this something I need to communicate to my spouse, or, is it not? That could be if they were abandoned as a child, and then they get married and their husband goes to work, right? They might be calling them 20 times. Now, it's not the husband's responsibility to answer those 20 times because he's at work. And so then I teach them work through that. You can remind yourself, okay, they've never shown me that signs of abandonment. They call me when they're going to come home. Some things just kind of help soothe yourself, and then see if it's something to address. Now, I kind of use the same example. Let's say, their husband comes home at 8 o'clock at night, but doesn't call, and they normally call when they're on their way at about 5. Now, that's not on your abandonment issues to work through. That's something that you do need to communicate, with that person, and so that it's not continuing to happen. So it's kind of both. It's working on your own thing so that it doesn't continue. Work through it, and if you work through it on your own, you may not have to bring it up with your spouse, because to be honest, I don't think either spouse wants every single thing to be brought up. So you work through it and go, okay, how am I? Okay, yeah, I'm feeling okay, or we work through it, or I know that just happened once and we're good. But if you're feeling like, oh, these feelings just keep coming up, and then every time something similar happens, right, it's like now it's 10 times worse. So if you keep getting that feeling, then listen to that feeling. That's an indicator, like, okay, this issue is not going away. I've tried to work through it. I tried to do my own coping skills, and I've tried to work through it, and it's still coming up. So then that's that indicator. Okay, I probably need to bring this up with the person that I care about and let them know how it's impacting me. And in the program, we talk about how to do a soft startup so that the person doesn't then feel like they have to be on defense mode. So then we help them, okay, how can you communicate your feelings in a soft startup?
I think that's great because a lot of people don't like confrontation, and they will put off that tough conversation, probably because they're very uncomfortable, or they'll stick with a text message, or they'll write a letter. And I mean, all that stuff's great, but the emotions can be misconstrued, I think, unless you're just sitting in front of someone and talking.
And accountability on the other person, right? How am I receiving it when someone brings something up too? So then that person is more likely to share as well. So being willing to say, okay, even if they don't do a soft startup, kind of the same thing. How can I then respond in order to help soften what they're saying and not go on the defense?
Do you feel like social media is skewing the perception of some relationships where maybe people are looking at that thinking, look how happy they are. They're going
Mm-hmm.
on all these trips. They're doing all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Why is my relationship not good? Do you see
Mm-hmm.
that a lot? Like kind of that, I don't even know if envy would be the right word, but just like
Yeah.
there's that perception out there with all this social media that everyone's
Mm-hmm.
living their best life. Why am I not? Does that
Yeah.
affect relationships?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I for sure think that it does play an impact on it, right? That can be individually too, yeah, or in your relationship, wondering like, yeah, why are we not doing this? We need to be doing this. And then sometimes get into bad situations too, right? Because to figure out, okay, how can we do this because that's what you're supposed to be doing, right? And then that might lead you to financial troubles or other you then have to work through. So I definitely think it can be an impact. Kind of going back to where we talked about working on yourself individually too. I think that's a big place to start is working through that, and and recognizing, okay, that is just a snapshot, and everybody's probably going through something, right? Everybody might have had challenge, whether it's individually or in their relationship or with their kids. Everybody's gone through something. And so I think that's also good to remember too. Everybody's human and everybody has experienced things. Just because their experience might look different from what's going on for you, just kind of remembering we're all in this together. We're all have our different struggles and being each other, cheering each other on, beated for the things that they're doing as well. But that doesn't mean if you do feel like there's something that needs to change, that's all obviously okay too, to be like, okay, this I do want to change this a little bit in a relationship. That's also okay. But you just want to where that place is coming from, right? Is that coming from a place of jealousy and envy? And if that's the case, then you probably don't have the right motive to change. But if it is because you are feeling like, okay, we could make some changes, but I would recommend not basing it off changes what others you see, just in that little glimpse of what make changes based on what's going on for you in your real life and not that little glimpse that you see of people.
I think that you're right in the fact that everyone has problems. They're just different. Some of them might be different, some of them might be the same. So it's important to recognize that. The other thing is I'm interested to hear your opinion on this. So my wife and I, there's been times where we fought or had disagreements, and a comment that has come up a couple times in the past is like, how are we going to get this through this because we're so different in this area. And I flash back to before I was married, I was obviously dating, and I went on one date with a gal who, I kid you not, was pretty much exactly like me. She had the same mannerisms, the same humor. I mean, everything. She was very similar. And after the date, it was a double date. My friend is the one that set us up. After the date, we got home and he was like, "So what do you think? Like, are you gonna go out again?" And I said, "No, no." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "I I just didn't like her. I couldn't stand her. She was pretty, but I just couldn't stand talking to her." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "She is you. She's exactly you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't like me. I don't wanna be with someone that's like me." And so, anyway, I thought I'd get your thoughts on that because when my wife and I, when that's come up in the past, I'm like, "No, that's good that we're so different because if we were the same, I don't think this would work out." So what do you hear that comment a lot sometimes from couples like, "Oh, we're so different. How are we gonna get this to work?" And what do you say when that stuff comes up?
Yeah, yeah. I love that you said that. I don't know if you watch Seinfeld, but there's an actual Seinfeld episode where Jerry's dating someone exactly like him. And he does the same. At first, he's all about it, but then later he's like, no, I don't want to do it. Yeah, it definitely does happen. And I think navigating it, just helping the couple to see, you know, things that they do. Even my mom said this, her and my dad are very different. And when they first got married, my mom was like, kind of the same thing. It wasn't like, we are so different. It was kind of the opposite. We're so different. How are you going to make this work? And she realized that all of the comments that are important to her, her values and what's important to her in life, those were all. So for her, that's kind of what helped her. I definitely think when I'm working with couples on how to do that, it's just helping them see, hey, right, that's okay if one person's a hiker and one person's not. That doesn't mean like your marriage is doomed. It just means you have to find different ways to do it. Sometimes it is, if it is date night, there might be something you want to do that maybe your wife doesn't, right? And there's compromise, meaning that you guys have to do that every single week and she has to learn to endure she doesn't love or care about you, right? Saying, okay, I'll sacrifice, I'll do this, but it's not my thing, and that's okay too. And then kind of like you were saying too, is just recognize each other's different strengths, right? If people are the same, then it would make it really difficult. My husband was the same, we probably late everywhere. He has to kind of recognize, okay, we're going to be late sometimes, but I also have to recognize, okay, these are areas that are really important to him to make sure we're on time, right? So you kind of have to find that balance and see the other person's strengths, and that's a huge thing as far as with marriage. That's what we talk about. So one of them is fondness and admiration, and that's being able to respect your partner. That's also respecting their differences and how you view them. So I think that can go a long way. And really just recognizing it's okay. You don't have to have everything in common. You can still have a full, wonderful marriage.
Yeah, and I love what you said. It's having common values. So if the value doesn't even have to always necessarily mean the same goals, that would be nice. And there should be goals that you do share, right? Goals as a couple, things like that. But I think having that value is like, okay, if we, these fundamental things we are aligned with, as long as everything we do kind of coincides with that, like we can support it. I might not be out there running that 5K with you, but I can support you doing it because it's for health. For my health, I like to go on the treadmill or whatever it is. So very cool.
Finding that balance. Yeah. With anything, just kind of finding that balance.
Well, I wanted to ask you this too. A lot of coaches that I know, they have coaches. And so do you have a coach right now? Have you had one in the past? And what have you learned from them that you've taken and kind of absorbed into your own method of helping couples?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love. Yes, I definitely do have a coach, and she's the one that helped me. I signed up to do some of the health challenges that I do now. So that's kind of where I got started. It was like, okay, I can do this health challenge, it's just back then I think it was 4 weeks. It was like, okay, it's a 4-week challenge, but what I love about it is we would meet weekly and we would do goals. I'm very big on making a goal and then having someone kind of hold you accountable, right? And follow up on that goal. So that's what I loved about it. And even though I'm coaching, I still have her to help coach me as well. I mean, it's like a therapist as well. Sometimes we need support, right? As well. It doesn't mean I know how to do everything in my family or that I don't support. We all need support from someone. So yeah, she definitely still is my support and helps keep me on track. And then if I have questions, that's also the nice thing too, because she's been doing it, I think 24 years. So that's what I love. If people are going through me, if there's something that I don't know, I definitely have a resource to go to, or I have a lot of resources that I can find to make sure that person's getting the individual support that they need, or maybe she's had experience with a certain type of person or health issue that she can help me. So yeah, I definitely think that's key. Having people in your life to be there for you is through health, or yeah, relationships. Very key to always have someone be there to support you as well.
And I want to get into the health coaching that you do as well, but first let me ask you, because some people would look at those as two separate niches, if you will, but I see them, and I think as we've talked together, they are intertwined. And so can you tell us a little bit about why it's important to have physical health in your relationships as well, and how those two play off each other?
Oh my gosh, yes, and I had the same thought as you at first when I started, because I was coaching before I started the business of building healthy found couples. So at first I was like, oh, right, I'm feeling like getting pulled in two different directions, and that's where I had to go. Wait, these really do align. Things sometimes are we have negative thoughts or things going on, it impacts our body. Then we might feel like, okay, I need to eat something sweet to kind of help calm me. And as far as a relationship, that's why I love this, because you can work on those goals together. But my goal is to help couples physically feel better. Just like we talked about, when you physically feel better, you're already going to feel emotional better. Now, it doesn't mean you might not still need therapy. It's not anything about that. It's just it can help increase your mood. And if you're feeling better, it's easier to have those conversations that might be difficult to have. And then if you're both on the same page, both working on physically improving, you're working on a common goal, which is helpful as well. So when I do the coaching with couples, the ultimate goal is to help you physically at home. What else do you need? Maybe in your business, what do you need? Well, I need that
saying, I need it. When I'm getting overwhelmed, with my business, what's going on, I need her to just say, you've got this. And so then they can kind of um, working working together physically and mentally. But it does make a difference. And like I talk a lot about Gottman, but in his book, The Seven Principles for Making Relationships Work, he says if you have a happy marriage, you're roughly 35% less likely to get sick. So having that relationship help you physically, and I think vice versa. If you work on that physically, that can also, help your relationship as well.
I've recently made some health adjustments in my own life, and it's been interesting because my wife made the comment a few weeks back, and she goes, "Wow, yeah, you're getting some stuff done." Like you're like I'm just handling. I'm not perfect, so there's still a lot of things I haven't done, but there's a mounting list of tasks that I was always tired to do and stuff like that. And as I've made a few improvements and gotten some more energy, it was like, you know what? I will go fix this thing right now instead of sitting on the couch or whatever. And so I think she's been happier with that too. So health plays a huge role.
I love that. Usually, if it's something physical, I just have people set a goal. You do 5 minutes, right? Like if it were didn't like the treadmill, just start 5 minutes and see how you feel. If after 5 minutes you're done, then you're like, that's awesome. I made my goal. Then your mind is still thinking positively instead of like, oh, I can't believe I only did 5 minutes, right? You're going, oh my gosh, I did 5 minutes. But a lot of times, chances are you may go, oh, I feel good. Okay, I can do longer. So, but 5 minutes seems a lot less daunting than like, okay, 40.
Yeah, for sure. As long as you're doing something every day, I like to, when I talk about goals, it's like you said, it's not about this big daunting goal. And you can set that goal, but what do you have to do every day to accomplish that goal? Because forget about the big goal. If you just stick with every day, you'll get there.
Yeah, I
Well,
love that. And
perfect.
even if it's not a physical goal, yeah.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned a health challenge that you did with your coach. And I know when we were talking before the call, you've now taken that as part of your business as well, and you're doing some health challenges. So maybe share with the audience what health challenge you are doing now, or that, I mean, do you do it throughout the year multiple times, or how does it work?
Yeah, they're 3-week challenge. I do them every month with a stress relief, right? It's giving you that support as well. The way the challenges works, like I said, starting the first Monday, then they go 3 weeks. The cool thing is if you want to participate as a challenge, you can actually win $1,000 by doing a before picture and an after picture. Now, if that's not something
Wow.
you want, you can just participate. Yeah, but ten people every single month win $1,000. And so it's just it
Wow.
doesn't even have to be weight loss, right? You might just want to tone up or different things like that. And so you could definitely participate that way. And then like a weekly support. So if someone decides to challenge, especially coming up in December, I really want to encourage people, let's start in December. I think people are January 1 or I'll start after the holidays. But let's feel good through those, let's have that healthy
Oh,
energy.
yeah.
We'll talk about protein and nutrition, not having those crashes. That's what I love about this program, not necessarily restricting. It's kind of a balance of everything. So with that, it has workout videos, which I love. You can just with the workout video, or it gives you exercises at your gym. There's also some recipes on that app. So I just love doing that. It has a little place where you can check off that you did the workout, kind of gives you that little boost of dopamine, like, okay, I did a goal today. So really enjoy it. Make those weekly goals. And then we follow up every Monday. Like how was your goals? How did you do? And then we make a goal for that week.
It's the small and simple goals, the small milestones of accomplishing things are so important and they feel so good, which is why you should have small goals within the parameter of a bigger goal, in my opinion. But I agree with you too. Like one thing about health is that most people think it has to be this start and finish journey, but it's a lifetime. You should be healthy all the time. And so that's why I love looking about health. I love looking at it as a daily thing. Like today, this is what I have to do. Ooh, I'm going to a party for Thanksgiving and they're going to have pie. Okay, I know I'm going to have that, but tomorrow I just start again. Like you can't think about that pie is going to give me 3 pounds or I'm going to gain weight or I'm going to do this or that. It's like you should start now and yes, enjoy yourself through the holidays, but those days that you're not going to the family parties, just try to stick with that. And I think that stops people from ever starting is I'll start in January and then January comes and then whatever. Anyway, I really appreciate you coming on the call today, Sonette. Like I said, to apologize. I got a little bit of a lag here right now. I just appreciate all the time that you've dedicated to help others because I truly believe as in the name of the podcast, family, health, and hustle, family right there, relationships is super pivotal to, I think, enjoying life. But that doesn't mean it's easy. It needs to be constantly nourished. So let me ask you this. If you could offer one piece of advice that you have learned throughout your own journey, whether it's been as a coach or in your personal experience, what would you tell our audience?
Well, I think one thing that I those experience divorce and going to cancer and weight gain and that journey, and also working on the crisis time, the one thing that I would recommend for everyone to do is, if you're struggling with that, or any other, if it's even a positive thing, you want to start a business, if you're struggling with something, reach out, find one person that you can say, hey, I'm struggling with this, because then it's not a secret. One person knows, and that kind of helps the problems. And then you have a person that can help you get additional support as far as therapy or just different things like that. And so I definitely think that's the one thing that I've learned, especially even in my cancer journey. I appreciate my friends and family and the doctor. My family felt like I did really well through it. There were a lot of struggles, but I also let them know if I needed as well. So it wasn't that I was struggling just on my own. So that's what I'd recommend, is reach out to someone. That person doesn't respond, reach out to someone else, reach out in prayer. If you feel like there's no one, there definitely is. So that's what I'd say. Reach out.
Awesome. That's great advice. I appreciate you sharing that. You mentioned leaning on people and gaining or getting strength, I guess, through some of that support. Previous to our call, you had mentioned a good experience, if you're willing to share, during your cancer journey. Someone took some time that you didn't know to deliver something to you, correct? And are you trying to now kind of put that back into some of your programs, some kind of a give back? Would you go ahead and tell us about that?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Actually, this has been really good for me to be able to share more about and if there is someone getting recently diagnosed or things, I'm always happy to talk with them as well. But yeah, when I was diagnosed, they gave me I think the same day I got diagnosed, they gave me a gift bag, and this just came from Ranger. It had some things that helped me get through my cancer journey, just like some heating pads for pain. It had some pills for certain type of surgeries if I had to have them. Just random things, chapstick, and a gift card from a gas station. I knew my family loved me, and like I said, I appreciate all they did. And this also helped, having a stranger give me something. This was someone who didn't know me, and they just said, hey, I know to have, you're about to have a struggle, you're about to have a fight, and I care about you. And that was really impactful for me. So yes, I definitely, since we're recording this October, definitely want to recognize Breast Awareness Month. And with my promotions, I definitely want to do more of those gift bags that I got. Me and my friends one year were able to do 50 of them, but the hospital has already used all of those. Love in December to get them kind of replenish those. In November, I have my premarital education weekend. So that's 15th and 16th. And there's information on my website about that. But if you can purchase for yourself, or you can purchase a gift certificate. And what I love is, on the gift certificate, I put to the happy couple. So couples not being, they're getting gifted therapy. They're like, no, that way. And then they
Thanks,
get that
Mom.
20. So they'd actually, if you, I know, yeah, like, so if do the happy couple. So if you gift that to someone, that couple's actually going to make $20 off the weekend, right? So they'll be making money by coming to that. So if you get a gift certificate for the November, or if you purchase a gift certificate before December, just so I have time to put the gift bags together, you can use that gift certificate for someone getting married next year as well. Then we'll donate $20 of that to go towards the gift bag. So my goal is to be able to donate as many as possible in December. December 16th, also as a thank you to my doctor, and the nurses and all that's there. They were amazing. So just as a thank you to them, they're helping people. So it's cool too. If you do the health challenge in December, think about it that way. You're getting healthy, also helping someone who's not going to be super healthy for a little bit, helping someone to get through their fight.
Yeah, I love that. I think I think anyone who wants to get into business should designate part of the revenue to some kind of give back, whether it's for animals, whether it's for special causes, for medical, whatever. I think that's what's great about business is it's an engine to generate good, right? And so good for you. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I have two last questions. I'll ask this one first. What's your next big goal? Do you have you just stated one right now with the give back, but do you have another big goal that you're trying to pursue?
I think the next big thing that I want to do is going to be around Valentine's. I haven't planned it yet. I'm hoping to do just a really fun a night of marriage, a little bit of education, but all fun. And then we're going to have a bunch of drawings there as well. So prizes. I love prizes. So right now, I've got prize and that's valued at $200. So I just want to make it fun and have it be a good night, but also learn things that then you can take. Also learning something that you can, apply to your marriage. And the community is so awesome. I've had so many people just out or donate things, and it's amazing. So I really think community works together. So if there's anybody that wants to party as well for gifts, I think that'd be awesome.
So you're looking for a night of what we call edutainment, education and entertainment, but activities, I guess, edu activities, something like that. That's what we call edutainment. Come learn some stuff, have some fun, right? That's awesome. And where you mentioned the website a few times, where can people find you? Where can they follow you and see what you're doing and learn more?
I think the best would be going to the website because I've been able to combine all of them. It talks individual education weekends. It talks individually about the marriage weekends, and those ones are upcoming. So I'm still planning those. Have an official date for those. And then it also talks about the health challenge individually or together. So I would just encourage people to go to buildinghealthyfoundations.com. So that's buildinghealthyfoundations.com. It'll change monthly and also on the Valentine's Day event.
Awesome. Buildinghealthyfoundations.com. We're going to have that link in the show notes for anyone interested. Click on it, follow Sonnet, follow her journey, follow all the good she's doing, and hey, maybe just go check it out in person and go start that nurturing process because I promise you, if you think you don't need it, you need it. Everyone needs to nurture their relationships. It's better to do it and not need it than need it and not have done it, right?
Whether it's your health, we like to wait until there's help or relationship. So prevention is key. Let's start now. And I'm happy to help you and support you in your journeys.
Well, Sanat, thank you so much for joining the call today. I really appreciate you. It's been great talking with you and hearing everything that you're doing. And for the listener at home, if you are interested in more of this content, follow her and her website. I'm going to post that in the show notes again. And also you can visit familyhealthandhustle.com to see other resources for some of our guests that are joining us and so forth. So anyway, thank you so much. And I will talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining in today because pursuing a balance between family, health, and hustle, it can feel a little wacky sometimes. So we need to learn from each other. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. In the meantime, download our free ebook, 6 Secrets for Success at familyhealthandhustle.com. And remember, we're on this journey together.
Hey, real fast, before you go, I just wanted to jump on here and let you know if you like what you're hearing on the show, you enjoy the content that we're creating, and you want more, please head over to familyhealthandhustle.com. Subscribe to Balance and Beyond. Balance and Beyond is a new monthly publication that I'll be sending out that covers more of the content and things that you're seeing on the show, just the same type of subjects, anything about balancing life, pursuing goals, and just moving forward. So again, if you like what you're hearing on the show and you want to support and you want more content, more information, please head over to familyhealthandhustle.com and subscribe to Balance and Beyond. Thanks so much. I'll see you later.